Thank you everybody for joining this session on generative AI essentials, trying to cover some basics and very, very important essential aspects of generative AI, which is quite a buzz in the industry today. This session is part of the series brought by Big Data Trunk. Big Data Trunk, we are part of a professional training services organization founded in 2008, providing online and in-person trainings and workforce development for corporates and individual career growth paths in several technologies, a lot of them being high-tech, cutting-edge technology, but also at the same time leadership, soft skills, boot camps, and several other things which we do. Today's topic is relevant in the scheme of generative AI. I think we have the biggest library, so we have different categories within our catalog. Generative AI is definitely starting to become the biggest in our own catalog. We serve several Fortune 500 companies, and we do public trainings as well. So this is part of completely free series, and there are several free trainings as well. I'll share some of those resources as we move into the session. And just wanted to introduce a new thing which we have just launched. We have started, most of our trainings are instructor-led live training, whether it is mostly online or in person sometimes, very rarely, but I think it's now after pandemic, it's mostly been kind of thing. We are literally today introducing a new concept called 24/7 subscription pass. It's an e-learning pass. It's relatively very, very economical, $10 per month for several courses instead of buying a single course in Udemy or Coursera or something like that. This could be a real value. You get that subscription. You can end at any point of time. There's a free trial. So that's the link. I'll share that link as well. So feel free to access that. In terms of today's topic, we are going to discuss about basics and essentials of generative AI. Our speaker for today is Aparna. Aparna is one of our lead instructors who provides several trainings in AI and the generative AI space for a lot of Fortune 500 clients, and been really getting great reviews and feedback from the students. So without further ado, I'm just going to pass over, stop share, and give it to Aparna. So welcome, Aparna. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Raj. Thanks a lot. Am I clearly audible?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Again, good evening, everybody. Yeah, good afternoon, based on where you're joining the session from. Welcome to this introductory session on generative AI essentials. So just give me a minute, to get the screen share started. I hope my screen is visible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. All right. So let's get started. Like Raj has already mentioned, this is a beginner level webinar on the essential building blocks of generative AI. So over the next 45 minutes, this is probably, what we are going to be trying to cover. We'll begin off with exactly what generative AI is, how it has evolved over time, and what are the various kinds of tasks that fall within the scope of generative AI. We'll spend quite a lot of time looking at some of the popular tools within the Gen AI landscape. What are the various kinds of application domains and use cases with respect to those various tools. Some of them probably, are things that I think all of us are pretty aware. And then there are also a lot more newer, unique applications coming out. So we'll spend some time on that. A very brief look at some of the technologies underlying most of these Gen AI applications, at least to get some sort of an introduction with respect to the terminology that goes in. And also, this is something we'll just do kind of briefly. It does take quite a lot of time, in fact, to understand all the underlying deep learning architectures, but we'll at least try to get a sense of what are some of the most common building blocks that go into creating these Gen AI applications. Towards the very end, we'll spend some time into looking at how we can take this journey forward, whether you are an individual end user, whether you're looking at it more as someone with some sort of hands-on coding experience. So what are certain directions that you could take this whole learning journey forward? So let's get started. And also, any point of time, if you do have any queries, please keep posting them in the chat box. We will kind of, have probably the last 5 to 10 minutes of time set aside for a Q&A session. Okay, so generative AI is again from this whole domain of us trying to create artificially intelligent systems, where the overall focus is in being able to either generate or create new content that was previously unavailable. And when we use the word content, it could be content that comes in any kind of mode or format. Most often, at least, the journey began with a lot of text-based Gen AI tools. But right now, we do have an equal number of tools and platforms that allow us to create content, which could be either in image format, audio, video, and even, within text, we can probably get into more specific detailed formats. It could be data analysis, it could be creating visualizations, it could be going through training sets, and then being able to do that in a very specific domain-based applications as well. So in terms of the variety of applications that are now available, where we are able to create or generate new text, the scope has widened considerably. And in fact, I think, most of us are aware, especially those of us who are comfortable with ChatGPT. Initially, it was mostly about text generation, and with their latest release, probably like, over the past 3 to 4 months, ever since ChatGPT 4.0 has come out, we are now looking at it in terms of a multimodal approach. You can ask ChatGPT to do image recognition for you. You can speak to it, so it's also capable of speech recognition. So it's one single tool now that is able to work in multiple varieties of these formats at the same point of time. Yeah, this is again one aspect where, for it to be even effective to a very small extent also, you definitely need any of your Gen AI based tools to be trained on a large amount of training data. And again, as these new models keep rolling out, I think, Gen AI is probably one of those domains where we are seeing an explosive amount of growth and interest almost on a daily basis. There is some new model that keeps getting rolled out pretty much on a daily basis now. And in terms of their capabilities, if we notice, for example, one of the most earlier models that started off this whole Gen AI functionality was the BERT transformer architecture, which was released by Google somewhere the end of 2017. And this was a model that had the capability of working through some 110 million parameters, which in itself is like, a pretty huge functionality. But then, if you look at some of the more recent models, let's say again, Google's own Gemini model, the more recent variants, they are capable of dealing with close to 350 billion parameters. So if you just look at the amount of growth or the improvement capability wise, it is massive, just that comparison between a model working with 110 million versus 350 billion parameters or tokens, that's huge. So also, the amount of training data sets they're pulling in from the internet and then creating better systems is something we are noticing at a very personal level too. And there is already talk about even better variants coming out. Just in the news probably yesterday, they're saying Project Strawberry from ChatGPT, or maybe, ChatGPT version 5 might be up for release very soon, probably within a month's time. And it is like massively more capable than what we are already used to with respect to ChatGPT 4.0. Overall intent, obviously, of any Gen AI based system would be to create something new, something novel. The novel, I would say, is still a little debatable. Maybe the initial variants were more in that parrot mode, I would say, look at something and try to mimic it exactly. These days, we do notice the capabilities going up, and to a certain extent, more novel, unique, original kind of output being generated by a lot of these systems. Let's spend a very little amount of time, looking at that whole journey as such. Machine learning is something that we are all aware of. It's been around probably for like, 20, 25 years now. We've made lots of headway with respect to the kind of ML capabilities that are present. Mainly, the intent behind any machine learning system was for us to be able to build systems that are capable of making some sort of predictions. These could be either numerical predictions like, predict how much price can I expect when I sell my used car, or these could be more classification based techniques. If I give you this patient data, can you tell me whether this patient has a certain disease X or not? So these were systems mainly meant to help us make some kind of predictions. And then we built good systems that were capable of taking up that whole learning process all by themselves. Again, the idea of training them by showing them a lot of training data stays similar throughout, that thread kind of stays the same. It's just that how the training data looks like and what's the quantity of data that we are dealing with is something that keeps changing or increasing massively as we move from ML and then to deep learning and then to generative AI. One other factor that clearly differentiates ML from the other aspects is this is a technique that works better when we have structured data sets, data that is formulated very cleanly in your row column formats. Some common applications, again, whether it is being able to classify diseases, doing a lot of regression based predictions, taking in data in unsupervised format and helping us with tasks like basic customer segmentation or the more earlier versions of recommendation systems. So these were some of the functionalities that we are already used to from a machine learning perspective. And then came this whole I would say journey into building much better systems, especially the deep learning based systems. The whole idea of learning itself, when you compare it with a machine learning model, obviously gets a little more complex and better. We are now looking at building neural network architectures and then implementing a variety of deep learning algorithms. So the whole approach to learning itself is a little bit more complex. And again, I would say a major distinction is in terms of what kind of data sets do we deal with. So especially with deep learning, they are better suited for more unstructured, the more richer kind of data sets. It could be huge amounts of images put together. It could be any of our natural language based text you pull out from, let's say, the entire Wikipedia, or it could be a lot of text that you scrape from the internet. It could be audio data, the kind of audio inputs that get into systems like Alexa or Siri. So wherever your data is in these more unstructured formats, in the more richer variants, deep learning algorithms work better. And again, we have been using a lot of these deep learning based applications. I'd say, post 2010, there has been very good increase in the kind of capabilities of DL based systems or deep learning techniques. Whether it is, our image recognition problems from the computer vision domain. It could be something like, Instagram tagging your pictures. It could be us using reverse image search on a lot of e-commerce platforms. All that voice-based assistants, Alexa, Siri, that are able to do very good quality speech recognition. So these are certain applications that we have been using from the deep learning space. This naturally, once again led to the next wave of growth as such, which was generative AI. Till now, we were only looking or focusing at using a lot of data to be able to perform any one specific task. The tasks were slightly more simpler and straightforward in machine learning. They became more complex and powerful with deep learning. But now our whole intent as such has changed from being able to use data to do something versus being able to use data and then create other data that looks very similar to this existing data. So that was, where the shift actually happened. And again, for Gen AI to even function effectively, we do need huge amounts of training data. The more amount of data that you can show your systems, and then ask them to generate something that looks very close or very similar to what we have shown these systems. That would be the whole focus of Gen AI based systems. In terms of techniques or the kind of technologies that go into creating these systems, again, a much more smaller, a more powerful subset of deep learning, and we will get to that in a little while. In terms of applications, it could be either text generation, it could be a variety of different kinds of text, it could be creating content in any of those multiple modes like audio, image, video, and we'll look at some of those applications now. Okay, so let's just get started, with the next part of it. What kind of content can Gen AI tools help us with? I'll just pause for a quick, maybe, a couple of seconds. You look at these images. Does any of these feel like, they are AI generated? Those of you who are interested, you could put in the responses in the chat box, or, otherwise just go through the images. What feels real? What probably feels fake or AI generated? They were like a lot more, but then, easier to focus on a relatively lesser number of images. Okay. Kind of surprising, I would say. A lot of times, when we look at these images, people typically say, two is something, image two is something that could be an AI generated image. 1 and 3 definitely look very real for some reason. And possibility that, either 2 or image 4 could be AI generated. It is both images 1 and 4 that are completely AI generated. And to be really honest, I think, for now, as of now, it's become extremely tough to even make these kind of distinctions, whether something is completely original, real content, or whether something is generated through an AI based system. The capabilities have become so good, whether it is in terms of generating text, mimicking someone's audio. In fact, couple of days back, this has been quite a lot in the news. TikTokers live feed where, they used deep fake technologies in order to alter their face to look like Elon Musk. Just been out there from a day or two now, gathering quite a lot of steam. This particular news article, a lot of people did get fooled into believing that it was actually Elon Musk who was doing the live stream, and then were asking him a lot of questions about, his strategies and what his future plans were, because the video looks so realistic. So just imagine this was done in real time on a live streaming platform, a person completely looking and sounding like someone else. So that's the current state of Gen AI. Now, in terms of the various varieties of content that we can work with, text generation is something that we are already pretty comfortable with. I would say a lot of us using it either for personal or professional purposes. For example, this is one sample where someone asked ChatGPT, like kind of describe yourself, and it does a very decent job at that. I'm a large language model. I can help you, create lots of new content. And depending on how your prompt is fashioned, like kind of, tell me a joke about yourself or something like that. And it can actually respond in almost exactly the same way that you would want. Recent studies, have also revealed that it has become increasingly difficult to figure out whether it is Gen AI based text or original human text that, some human participant has developed. There are tools though that can help us kind of flag it or pick up which part is Gen AI based and which part is original human content. But then again, in terms of their capabilities, I think they're getting definitely better. And the more clearer and the better the quality of your prompt, you can expect extremely good quality responses from ChatGPT or any of those other text-based tools. Image generation, very good quality images, especially from a creative or artistic perspective. The more clearer your prompt is, again, better quality image generation. There are various tools available, some within the free space, some that are only available within a paid subscription model, but the quality of responses that you get back from these tools, again, is awesome. For example, this image on screen, an impressionist model oil painting of a Canadian man riding a moose through a forest of maple trees. The prompt itself is extremely detailed of what all elements you would want to show up within your image. And I think, the quality of the image itself pretty much reflects almost all those components in very good fashion. Code generation, again, whether it is GitHub Copilot, any of those other tools or alternatives that are available out there, Codium, which is now, probably almost equally as good an alternative as GitHub Copilot, whether it is to help you fix your code, whether it is, a tool that helps you put in natural language prompts and then build code from scratch. So multiple ways in which a lot of these code generation tools are helping us, especially, if you are from the developer space and you would want some sort of assistance with building your code on a regular basis. Video generation, again, maybe, mostly for people working in the creative space, marketing, advertising. As of now, probably I would say these are still in that demo stage where we are able to look at or understand the kind of capabilities these tools offer us. But then, being able to, excuse me, sorry, that was my Alexa going off. All right. So now, when it is about this video generation, maybe at a very free level for us to be able to go ahead and then put in prompts and generate videos is probably not a capability that is available to all of us on a completely free basis. But there is talks of a Sora model that is available for general free public use, being able to, come out pretty soon. Let me just play, maybe a few seconds of this. So you put in a text prompt and then this tool builds you really small video snippets based on your text prompt. For example, this is a cartoon kangaroo. And you do not have to give any kind of image prompts. You don't have to give it any other added assistance, just your text prompt that is sufficient. So this is a litter of puppies that are playing in snow. The videos are extremely realistic. They're beautiful. They completely match what the prompt says. And again, in terms of, the quality, or maybe if I put it more technically in terms of the accuracy, they're doing an awesome job at being super realistic, where it's even difficult, to tell you whether it is AI generated or whether it is a video that has been captured by an actual person. Okay. So a lot of these available for us on their website. And then again, similar tools that are available where you can get some sort of subscription and then go ahead and do this at a much larger scale. So irrespective of the form of content that we are working with, I would say, the Gen AI space has matured considerably. You do have a variety of tools that are available to you that allow you to carry out a lot of these capabilities. Let's just very briefly look at some of the technologies or the kind of architectures underlying a lot of these systems. I'm going to start off with the transformer model, which was released in 2017. This was probably that most groundbreaking kind of technology released by Google, where they released this paper that talked about importance of attention mechanisms within transformer based architectures, which are again a variant of a deep learning architecture. And this was where a lot of this Gen AI based functionality started happening. BERT was one of the initial free open source LLM variants, which started off the whole text generation functionality as such. And again, a lot of these models are available in open source format. So for anyone who would want to probably borrow the model and then start training it by yourself in order to build your own functionality or application, is something that is very straightforward and doable right now. DALI was when people started showcasing the image generation capabilities. So post 2020, after the initial version of GPT came out, and then we are seeing these massive improvements, whether it is in terms of text generation or all of these other multimodal kind of generation happening. Some of the main deep learning architectures that go into building a lot of these Gen AI tools, at least these are 4 terms you will come across very frequently. A lot of them, especially all the ChatGPT kind of tools, do make use of transformer-based architectures. In fact, the GPT itself stands for generative pre-trained transformer. So it's again a mix of a lot of large language models, which are once again, I would say, a much deeper focused subset within a lot of these transformer-based approaches that help us in building a lot of the text generation capabilities that we are using right now. When it comes to other kinds of content, you could either have a generative adversarial network, or you could have your autoencoder kind of architectures. Current state of art, though, is multimodal models. Just recently, probably I would say from a week back, till now, the talk has all been about LLMs, large language models. And now, if you just go and do a little research on upcoming courses, you will notice that there is like a lot of talk about LMMs, large multimodal models. One single model that helps you create text and image and speech, everything put together from one single model. So that is probably the current again state of art, and where a lot of developments are happening. We won't be spending too much time with this particular part, but just a couple of aspects that in fact make all this generation possible. Like I've mentioned, attention-based mechanisms built into these transformer architectures were what led to this whole build of all these Gen AI applications that we're noticing right now. And exactly, what do we mean by this whole attention mechanism? For example, this really simple example, if we go through, this animal didn't cross the street because it was two. Now, if this is a Gen AI based tool, you would probably stop at this stage. You'll kind of say, because it was two, and then stop. So there is a blank there, and you expect the model to fill it up. And in this case, the model is filling it up with this term scared. And for it to be able to do that correctly, the reason why the animal didn't cross the street, because the animal was scared, it has to figure out that this it is talking about the animal. There is one other it in this, another noun, which is probably the street. So it has to know that it has to link or relate this it to the animal, and then what are certain terms that are highly probable to show up with respect to an animal and not with respect to the street. So probably what we are trying to say is, you should have a model that knows that first it has to understand that this it was associated with the animal. So it has to be able to give more attention to this term in comparison to some of the other terms that it is noticing as part of this entire statement. And that is what attention based mechanisms actually help us with. I'm just going to quickly move here to a link. Let me start share once again. Most of our Gen AI based models, like we have said, it's either the transformer based architectures or it is the generative adversarial kind of networks. So again, we do not have enough time, and also in terms of the technicalities, probably a little beyond our scope as of now. We do have other more technically focused courses where the underlying architectures and the technicalities of all the models are done in more detail. But for now, just to kind of get a understanding of exactly what it is that happens within these models. For example, if this is, let's say, when you're talking to any of your text generation based models, you put in a query and you expect it to come back with a response. It has to be able to create one word after another or one token after another. What is the next most likely word that can show up in this particular scenario? For example, artificial intelligence is transforming and we know what is probably a very good word that can show up, a more likely word. So it uses these attention based mechanisms. First, it converts all your text into some sort of these numerical embeddings, and then does these massive attention based calculations on top of that, and then comes up with an entire list of terms that can probably show up, and then calculates the probabilities of which term can probably show up at a much higher level. And as I keep clicking on this generate, it is recalculating all those attentions every single time. And it's figured out, probably it's transforming the world. The best token that can probably show up is a period. You're trying to end that sentence with some 27% probability. Extremely good visual, and also very proper deep explanation of exactly what it is that happens internally with any of these language based models. Going to go back to my slide show. There are also similar kind of demos, also all the working code that goes behind a lot of these models that is available for experimentation purposes, completely free. Three places that you could go to, probably Kaggle, you could go to GitHub, and also a lot of these websites do host a lot of those models for free on their websites. For example, all the transformer architectures, the various variants, you could go to huggingface.com and then get those code bases and experiment by yourself if you're interested in building them. Are my slides showing up? I just want to make sure they're showing up again before I start.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks, Raj. Okay, so along with transformers, some other models that do make up this Gen AI space, we do have the generative adversarial networks. So transformers are better suited for text generation, especially if it is any sort of image or speech data that we are interested in. This works, if you can probably visualize the whole fencing kind of game that happens between two individuals. That is probably the style in which GANs work. There is a lot of real data, actual images that we pull out, let's say from internet or Instagram, that make a part of the database. Then we have a whole generator part of the network that tries to build similar kind of images. So this is like generated or fake data that our system is building. And then we have a discriminator that tries to figure out whether it is real or fake. For this whole pipeline to work well, you want your generator to build images that are almost as good as real, and you want your discriminator to be so good that it can easily figure out the fake ones from the real. And the better the quality of data generation, the better your overall network works. One other very commonly seen architecture is the variational autoencoders, which try to compress or encode your original data and then try to decode it and see if they're able to build back or reconstruct the original image by looking at a lot of properties of the data. It could be images, it could be speech. And if your decoder is able to build the exact same kind of input image which you put into your encoder, that means it understands all those features or properties well. So then you can start asking it to generate similar looking data for you at a later point of time. One other aspect, that not covered actually, but which is probably almost equally important, and we do have, another webinar coming up that covers that in a lot more detail. The large language models, especially that go into the whole text generation part of it, which are again a subset of those transformer architectures. But those are also probably, I would say, very important technologies to understanding how Gen AI works. Let's spend, the next probably 5 to 10 minutes understanding some of the most popular tools and use cases with respect to various kinds of content. Text generation obviously is something that all of us are interested in at a very personal level too, or for professional purposes as well. Whether it is, the latest variant ChatGPT 4.0, Google's Gemini, Claude from Anthropic also does an extremely good job at generation. It does give you a free developer credits to a certain extent as well. And then, for more specific use cases like creating social media content or helping you with fixing your grammatical errors and suggesting a better sentence formation or generating new sentences in the place of your old ones, tools like Grammarly. Almost all of them do allow certain usage on a free basis, and then more powerful use cases are available within the paid models. So whether you would want to build your own chatbot for your website trained on your proprietary data, you want to build resumes, you want to ask it to play some kind of a role, act like a therapist, act like a nutritionist, act like a travel company and give me an itinerary. Whether you want to use it just for grammar check, write all those details that you get from Microsoft Word, how many words and how many lines, you can actually put in your content into ChatGPT and ask it to do that whole grammar check portion to it too. Help me as a coding assistant. The more creative aspects, come up with a complete storyline using these prompts. Build me a sales pitch for so and so kind of a product. Help me with this exam prep, generate multiple choice questions, or build me small essays based on these questions. So the use cases are massive. It's just our understanding and probably our creativity that limit how well we can make use of these generative AI tools. Image generation, again, a lot of free tools available out there, but then I would say the kind of functionality you get back is slightly limited. The paid subscriptions definitely a lot more better, especially for people from the creative space. Midjourney is supposed to be extremely good at building either images or videos. Stable diffusion is something that allows you to do a lot of refining as well. One drawback I would say for now, as of now, even ChatGPT lets you do image generation for free. It is limited to just 2 images per day, but you could do that. But then, you just put in a prompt and it gives you an image. This whole ability to have a dialogue and then be able to refine the image is still missing. Um, Only available for the paid subscribers. But Stable Diffusion is this free open source variant where you have a lot of control in terms of what kind of image do you want to generate as well. So yeah, probably a little amount of time and effort into upskilling ourselves, but the kind of functionalities that we can derive from these tools is awesome. So it could be for creating a lot of content for, let's say, marketing, advertising. Print on demand is something that people are making very good use of. Put in really creative ideas, get the images from these tools, and then you print t-shirts or you ask for products to be printed based on those images. Generating a lot of artwork for online games, for films, building good educational tools that have this whole audio visual component to them, generating complete graphic novels by putting in text prompts, helping with fashion design. Again, very good use cases in terms of generating new images. Audio generation, again, various ways you could approach it. For example, tools like JukeDeck or Amper Music, especially if you're interested in music compositions, or you want to build automated voiceovers. Let's say you have a complete slide set and then you want automated voices to go along with it, helping you with the kind of really catchy tunes that you incorporate as part of the gaming, or building better immersive experiences. These are all very good use cases where these tools come in very handy. In other sense as well, even like as a regular user, if you would want to get out a complete transcription of your meeting notes, or you want good quality translation from one language to another, you'd want to generate subtitles for existing videos. So again, either the text to speech variant of it, or being able to generate fresh audio based on your prompts. So these are certain ways you could use a lot of these audio generation tools. Code generation, lot of good tools available out there, whether it is GitHub Copilot or Code Whisperer from Amazon. We have Tab9. Codium is also doing extremely well in terms of quality. It could be for creating new code. It could be for fixing existing code, just helping you as an AI assistant in terms of debugging. In fact, we have complete GenAI based applications now that can take in massive amounts of legacy code and then give you a low code or no code variant of that existing legacy code. And again, the benefits that has at an enterprise level are massive in terms of that very quick response time and being able to do jobs that would probably take years and finishing it off in a very small amount of time. Video generation, again, specific tools only for creating GenAI based videos. Runway is something that is spoken about quite a lot in terms of doing very good quality videos, Pictory, Synthesia. So it could be either for creating complete advertisements from scratch, only through these GenAI based tools. You could create a lot of educational content. Social media is again one area where lot of usage of GenAI is being done very effectively to create all sorts of social media, marketing, branding kind of content. Companies using it for, the whole corporate training and communication purposes. So again, it's just kind of left up to us in terms of how we are able to work with these tools and get the best usage out of them. As either like a individual for your own personal use, or maybe maybe how to probably use these tools to kind of do your job better. I would say from an end user perspective, one thing that we can all focus on is how to be able to do better prompting so that we get better quality results from all these GenAI based tools. So prompt engineering is an area that if we spend some amount of time and energy into upskilling ourselves, we'd be able to reap better benefits from a lot of these tools. A lot of them also allow you to fine tune parameters. For example, ChatGPT, once you sign in, and especially if you have your paid subscriptions, being able to change the temperature or the top P or top N values, do you want your content to be more creative? Do you want it to be a little more dynamic? Do you not want a lot of terms to be repeated? Do you want it to look more original? So there are a lot of these minor fine tunings that you can do so that you get better quality result. So that is one area we could focus on. Instead, if you're a person who is more interested in getting access and then being able to uh, build your own system or kind of fiddle with existing systems, you could definitely go ahead and try out getting API.
I don't know, something clicked, Aparna, we can't hear you anymore. Like a microphone. Now, yeah, come back, continue.
Okay, I'm sorry. Were you all able to hear, the part where I was talking about prompt engineering?
Yeah, we heard the prompt
Yeah.
engineering.
Okay.
Just few seconds, I think just few seconds back it happened.
Okay, thank you for letting me know. Okay, so from a developer perspective, again, a lot of those do allow you to get your own API level access. For ChatGPT, you will have to have a paid subscription. With Google Gemini, you can still do it for free. A lot of those transformer-based architectures like Hugging Face also allow you to get your own API tokens completely for free. So you could pick up some language. I'd say one of the most preferred ones still happens to be Python. And at least at the initial stage, these are all completely free for the experimentation purposes. You could go to Google Colab, start building code in Python. and start interacting with those tools directly by sending your own prompts instead of through some sort of a web-based interface, so that you have more control on the kind of functionality that you want. And this way, you could also have your own training data sets that you could use and then build custom applications, implement your own variants. One word of caution, though, definitely, there are quite a lot of challenges with respect to GenAI. It's still an evolving field. One, there is definitely a lot of bias that we notice. These models are only as good as the quality of the training data that we show them. And yeah, there is a lot of bias that goes into training data sets, especially those that have been pulled off the internet. So addressing bias becomes a huge problem. Some of the good quality models, especially where you want very professional kind of responses, are all expensive, mostly subscription-based models. And then, the amount of power that they consume. There are a lot of reports of, let's say, either ChatGPT or Gemini consuming as much power as small countries put together do on a daily basis. So, the whole environmental impact of it. Copyright issues, especially with image and audio generation. Are they infringing on personal copyrights of the people who in fact created a lot of the original content that goes into building those training data sets? This is something we are hearing of quite often now, hallucinations from large language models. Instead of kind of telling you that they're not aware of an answer, these days models are coming up with very random kind of responses that do not match your query or prompt at all. So they come up with very bad quality responses at certain times for various reasons. So being able to figure that out and then being able to fix it. Again, currently, if you notice, there is a lot of talk of RAG-based implementations, the retrieval augmented generations, in order to address some of these issues. But again, that's an ongoing research area. Then the whole ethics part to it, especially, let's say students making use of ChatGPT to complete their assignments, or using something like GitHub Copilot, especially if you're doing it, from your work perspective. All of us have to be really aware of company policies. Are we allowed to put in our training data into those tools or not? Because it ultimately becomes part of a much bigger training data set. The societal impact, again, is something that probably we're not really pausing to understand at a much deeper scale. The economic impact it will have on jobs, impact it has on us in terms of our own skills. It is making our jobs a lot more easy. But also, are we losing out on some of the learning we did at a very personal level to fix a lot of issues that probably ChatGPT or GitHub Copilot do for us now? So these are certain aspects that we need to be mindful of. And again, especially for professional purposes, are you even allowed to use those tools? What amount of your own company-wise proprietary data are you allowed to put into those tools? Are things to be extremely mindful of before going ahead and making use of any of those GenAI based tools. Okay, purposefully put that there. Last slide. This was a prompt I put into ChatGPT just before I finished up the slides. Can you generate an image for a final slide on GenAI? It has to sum up GenAI capabilities and ask users to use it responsibly. This was the image ChatGPT came up with. You can do text, image, music, and everything, and then asking you to use it more responsibly. Does look pretty, but if you notice, a lot of spelling mistake. This is an issue I have with ChatGPT image generation, where there is text embedded with the image. It is mostly getting it wrong still. Pure text generation, it is able to do a great job. So that kind of finishes up the content I had planned for the webinar. We have a little time, so let's try and take some of the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Aparna. Quite a comprehensive coverage. Before we, folks, you can put your questions in the chat. There are a few which I have responded already. There are a few which we can take cumulatively. I don't know if Aparna, you said. But before we go to that, I just want to take a couple of moments to highlight some of the next steps, potential next steps and resources, free resources, and so on and so forth So as we do a monthly series, which we have tried to do at least one, sometimes two as well, the next series is kind of a good next step to what we talked about today. Today, we talked about the capabilities of generative AI and what it can do in text, image, video, and separate kind of modalities. But trying to get into a little deeper underneath it is the next one coming in a month or so. You can either join it through this Eventbrite site, or if you're part of our meetup groups, you can access through that as well. In fact, we have posted a couple of them upcoming ones. Today's one is this one. Then we have the under the hood LLM, decoding LLMs, basically try to get a sneak peek what actually happens in LLMs. And then the October one is focused on words to wisdom, exploring LLMs and RAGs. So we are trying to keep with the theme of generative AI as much as possible because that's quite a lot of interest. Feel free to register. I've put those links in the chat. Few more resources on our site. If you go and if you look in the resources section, we have tried to put together some free trainings, especially with the fact that the economy and a lot of challenges have been happening. A lot of people, unfortunately, losing their jobs and things like that. We're not even able to have jobs or countries where people are not able to afford training or kind of a thing. But we have put together a lot of great topics, machine learning, cloud, free resources. So these are curated resources. Some are own, some are external ones. But just wanted to give 2 cents to the community and everybody else. So we have put together a page on a lot of different things. There are a lot of great resources which people don't realize, coming from the Stanfords of the world, the MITs of the world. Really, really good content. So I think all of that has been curated here. Again, all of these links are posted in the chat, or you can go to our website and just go to free resources and you'll see many of these. Or if you wanted to see the webinars, I think this is on our website itself under resources. Again, just below that, it's like the webinars and videos. So recordings from the past ones are there. So if you have not joined some of these ones, you can see the recordings. They go to our YouTube channel. We're going to post this one too, and it will move to the recording section. I've put the YouTube link as well in the chat. So you can refer that here by using this links. You can directly go. So if you wanted to save this one page, it can give you a lot more. Talking a little bit on the commercial side of things, we do professional training services for corporates mostly. So if your company is looking for training, your team is looking for training, we do for really, really large Fortune 500 companies and great universities and great brands which we have been able to serve. So really proud about the team and what we have been able to offer to different kinds of communities and universities and corporates as well. So feel free to suggest if you have credits which your company gives you all, that is another way you can join some of their programs as well. We also are introducing a new program or new thing today. I told briefly in the beginning, just for a lot of folks who are joining right now, a 24/7 subscription pass. It provides access to a lot of e-learning courses. It's very economically driven, $10 for all of these courses per month. A whole subscription on several of these things, which in ChatGPT and more technology focused and more keep on adding, whether it's hands-on tutorials, whether it's everything accessible into a single package. It's free trial is there. You can just take free trial and stop if you want or continue it based on your need. If you're looking for individual public training, not the corporate one, again, if your company is giving credit, you can do that as well. There are some of these next upcoming ones coming in, which are a continuation of what you've heard today. So we keep on adding more and more, much more of these are going to be added in the next quarter or so. So generative AI essentials, today we had a sneak peek of it, but definitely going in much more length and then understanding LLMs as well. So these are a few resources. I just wanted to quickly share that. I think great job. Thank you, Aparna, for that. We're going to go and have these resources available for you all, and you can access that. So with that, I'm going to pause the recording.